All right, so this starts a sequence of videos on loops because Java, like most languages, has a couple options you can do inside of loops. And it's actually going to talk about arrays as part of the sequence as well. The most basic loop in almost any language is the for loop. Java and C, once again, have the exact same syntax. You can literally copy and paste them, they work. They're very different than Python. The type of loop that a Python normally runs on, Java has. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Python also does this behavior, but it does over a specific range. Actually, I like Python's looping better than C in Java. It makes more sense. But this is the rules of how it works in Java. It's worth kind of walking through it. So Java, the for loop, has three parts to it. I define a index variable. I have a condition that I check in the index variable, and then I increment that index variable. And so this simple little bit of code counts 0 through 10. It starts at 0. I'm sorry, 0 through 9. It starts at 0. It goes to 9 because I didn't say less than or equal to 10. I just said less than 10. And then it increments using the plus plus operator, adds 1 each time. So really ridiculously super simple stuff. The important thing here is the first part of this is either declaring or initializing an index variable. You don't have to have any of these three pieces here. You can actually do a colon. You could actually make an if statement colon colon. For loop is going to be colon colon. It's just confusing to do that, but that would loop forever essentially. But the the first part is either defining your loop variable, which is available only inside the loop, or initializing a variable defined someplace else to be a value, or leaving it out and use whatever variable you want. But it's very flexible. You should make your for loops look like this to find your variable there. Now the decision part, and I'm kind of just focusing on that right now, can be a simple decision, less than 10, or it can be any compound set of using operators and whatnot to get any expression you want to that results in a single Boolean. So I can say, loop 1 to 10 unless it's quitting time, as long as it's less than 10 and it's not quitting time. So I can define whatever logic I want to. Just understand, the more complexity added here, the more confusing my loop might be. Generally speaking, we want for loops to be simple. That being said, for loops can be even more complex by adding advancement options. So I can do I plus plus, plus 1, I minus minus, minus 1. I can say I plus equal 3, or plus I equal I plus 3, or I can multiply inside of there, or I can call some method inside of there. There's all sorts of crazy things I can do. The best programming style is to keep it simple, but if it is fairly simple, I want to go through every third item on the list, then one of these can work well as well. Just to be fair, for loop syntax can get stupid crazy difficult. I'm allowed to define multiple variables, int I and int j up here. I can have a condition with multiple things, loop for I and j, and is the president in town, is the weather rainy or dry. There's anything I can put logic inside of there, as long as I put and or conditions, anything that results in a boolean. And then once again, you can have any number of advancement. So I is equal to I plus 1, j is equal to j plus 3. They can both be advanced inside of there. Within reason, this can be very robust and complicated. My preference is simple for loops, and if I'm doing something more complicated, use a while loop. But that's just my style. I'm not going to dictate to you how to code. You've been coding at this point. If you have a great algorithm and you just want to implement it, in this, then you can definitely do that. So that's the basic for loop. But there's another version of for loop we're going to talk about in a bit.